This is America's Web Radio. Would you like to have a show, talk about your business, or express your opinion on America's Web Radio? Just email gm@americaswebradio.com and we'll get back to you. Thank you.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
From 8 to 9 a.m. on AmericasWebRadio.com.
Perhaps you are struggling to cope with the disease.
Now?
Sure, why not?
Welcome, everybody. I am Roger B. This is Locked and Loaded, and you're listening to America's Web Radio. Oh, my goodness. What are we going to do without the police? Everyone says, oh, we don't need, well, not everyone says, but a lot of people in there are saying, we don't need police. We'll police ourselves.
Yeah, not everybody says it.
Right, because, I mean, now, granted, if there's not police, people who know how to protect themselves will handle things. And they'll take care of things. We'll get things done. Of course, I have a feeling there'll be less trials and more funerals.
And we're not advocating more funerals, but look, if you're a tyrannical, lawless fool,
Antifa or
Antifa,
burn, loot,
look, I don't care
murderer.
what group you call yourself. Yeah, if you're Marxist and you're going to come destroy property, eventually you're going to knock on the wrong door. And you're going to be there on the receiving end
Of Second Amendment rights.
Second Amendment rights. and look, Second Amendment rights can come at you from different degrees, and they can come at you in different speeds.
Different sizes.
There can be different bursts. There can be, different sizes.
Now, keep in mind, you will never be shot at with an assault weapon. These will all be defense weapons.
Defense weapons. Absolutely, man.
What about them long rifles that they keep talking?
Hey, if they're used for defensive purposes, defense and offense are two different descriptors.
Wasn't the long rifle back in the Revolutionary War?
Oh, yeah, a Revolutionary and the Civil War had long and sharpshooters.
I haven't seen many long rifles.
They're out. In fact, precision shooting is coming back with a vengeance. Now, a lot of people are getting into this sport. Yeah, because some manufacturers now, because of the capability of the newest computers and such, they can manufacture weapons to be extremely accurate at long ranges that used to have to be completely custom built. And now you can buy one off the rack that's probably as good as a gun 20 years ago, built from scratch, pieces and parts.
Oh, that's good. So I could shoot an Antifa from 20 miles away or something? And
well, quite a ways. 20 miles would be a little extreme considering gravity exists.
2 miles and, you know, Kentucky windage. You're
right.
probably too young for Kentucky.
You could certainly
windage.
be splashing bullets near them.
Making them dance.
Yeah, if they know where it's coming from, because the bullet would probably splash before they even heard the shot. So basically, if you hear the shot, you weren't the target.
Yeah. You might think you're in a thunderstorm, right?
I remind people of that all the time because sometimes, especially since I'm in the city, when you hear gunshots, if you've heard them, clearly you were not the target.
Well, especially at long range, yeah.
Yeah. But that doesn't always apply to Democrat-run cities like Chicago, where, Roger, I believe another double-digit murder rate.
Record-breaking weekend in Chicago. Woohoo!
I mean, Chicago's breaking just record after record of records they don't want to be breaking.
That's right. These are not the kind of records you should be proud of, but they're still managing to break them over and over again. Yep. It's ridiculous.
114 died this past weekend.
It's hard to keep up with.
I think the weekend before was that, and then this weekend, I don't remember the numbers offhand, but it was very similar.
What most people don't realize is during the war on terrorism, more people were generally dying in the United States than were overseas. Yeah. Through violent crime here. So
mostly in Chicago and Baltimore.
Now, granted, the soldiers are better prepared for that kind of stuff. Well, yes, and here, unfortunately, a lot of the cities that, shall I say, have these problems tend to discourage law-abiding citizens from being able to defend themselves.
Yep. Well, you know what, Roger? You need only look to the city of Minneapolis, where these bozo city councils have defunded the police. But, Roger, what do you think they did?
Well, they had to get guns somehow, didn't they?
They spent $65,000+ of taxpayer money to hire private security for themselves.
While cutting the police for everybody
The
else.
police for you. So once again, and I keep telling you people this, you just keep electing those elitist Democrats, because the burdens that you will be forced to bear will never be bared by the elitists.
Them, yeah, you're gonna pay for their stuff.
It's only for you, the peasant.
I know the peasants have to suffer. Yeah, I heard that 65,000 was like for 3 weeks worth of private security for 3 people.
And do you think it's only going to last 3 weeks, or do they know something that we don't know?
Well, they claim to have received threats. Well, yeah, because you're in politics, you're going to receive threats.
Yeah, first of all, probably not. And if they did receive threats, might it have come from Antifa or the rest of those bozo
Right, the
groups
burn,
out
loot,
there?
murder crowd.
The burn, loot, murder crowd.
I mean, yeah, if you're going to burn, loot, murder, or be an anti-First Amendment person, then hey, you know what? You're gonna cause problems, and we're gonna come out. And I love when they say, "Oh, we're coming to the country next. We're gonna come out there. We're gonna come to the suburbs." I go, "Don't you realize people in the country will climb 40 feet up in a tree and wait a whole day just to kill something?"
They won't only wait a whole day. Roger, there are people there. Let's put it this way. There are good old Georgia boys, Tennessee boys, Alabama boys, Florida boys that will climb in a tree or in a duck blind with animal urine,
Yeah, in order to
and
attract.
they will sit there even in freezing temperatures for 24, 48 or more hours just to
Kill something. So
So
come on down.
What do you Antifa and burn, loot, murder crowd people, you want to bring your tyranny to the good old boys? Then come on.
Yeah,
Come on.
I don't think that is going to end
It
poorly.
is going to end very bad, and it's going to be. And look, we love moving targets,
Oh yeah,
and
sure.
and I've seen these.
But I've
people.
seen some of
They
these
don't
guys.
move very good.
They're not moving very fast.
No,
Have we heard how Dynasty feels about them?
I haven't heard, but I have a feeling I could guess.
They
Well,
would be-
they'd be dealing with a bunch of quacks.
yes, we might have to try and get them on as a guest.
Oh, that'd be
That
neat.
would be a good.
Somebody
would
from
love
Duck
this
Dynasty,
show.
yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, that's funny.
But without the police, what are you going to do? I mean, are you prepared to defend yourself, your family, your property? In New York, the New York Police Department is unsure how to address soaring crime amid police reform, because the officers are like, they're hesitating. They're not enforcing laws because they're afraid. They don't want to be on the receiving end of a lawsuit or disciplinary
Let me tell
action
you.
that's going to cause them to lose their jobs.
The Dumb and Dumber duo in New York, Cuomo and De Blasio, have tied the hands of the NYPD.
Right,
De Blasio
exactly.
just announced $1 billion that he's going to take away from the NYPD.
Great.
So if you're an NYPD guy, you're sitting there going, okay, my hands are tied. Why would I go put myself in harm's way?
Right.
But yet, De Blasio, everywhere he goes, Roger, who do you think surrounds him?
He has armed security
Armed
guards.
security.
Man, if you can't see
But
the writing on the
you-
wall, it's
you-
coming.
Yeah, you the citizen in New York, though, you can't. You've got to arm yourself with spitballs and paintballs
Nerf guns.
and Nerf guns.
Well, only when approved by the authorities that be. Yeah, I mean, just to purchase a handgun in New York, not carry it, not get a permit to carry, just to purchase requires a 60-page application and a $300 application fee. That should be illegal. To charge somebody $300 to exercise their right in the constitutional right. Imagine if people had to pay $300 to get a permit for free speech.
Right.
Do you think the outrage would be there? Would
You know,
people be complaining? In order to post a
great
comment on the internet, you have to have a
gotta pay a
$300
fee.
permit.
Oh, wait a second. The politicians
And they
put
figure-
up their money to run for office, so I guess they could.
Their
say-
money? Whoa,
Well,
their money?
Well,
Yeah.
their
Supporters.
patrons' money.
Well, maybe
the
Trump
supporters'
put his
money.
money.
But yeah, I'm like you. It's crazy. It's beyond crazy. So,
But anyway, so the police are sitting there going, what are we going to do? We're under a scrutiny. We're under extreme prejudice if we do anything to help police neighborhoods. So now they're just not answering calls. They're not going into situations where there might be a problem, where they may have to be confronted with violence. So now they're wondering, how are they going to stop the crime? They're not. The crime rates in New York are soaring because all the criminals are going, hey, the cops aren't coming after us now. They're afraid they're going to get in trouble. They don't want to get in trouble, so they're just going to let us go. And a lot of them are taking this stance. They're just letting things happen because they look at it and go, I'm going to take the safe way out. I'm not going to take the way that causes confrontation, that causes me to put any risk.
I understand that the crooks are on one arm. They have a guy in a suit and tie, and when they see a cop, they say, I'd like to introduce my attorney to you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially after the thing in Atlanta where the guy turned and fired a taser at a police officer. I don't know if he was hit or not, but he fired, and then they returned fire with their guns, and they're saying, oh, he was shot innocently after running away, grabbing a police weapon and firing at them. No, that was not innocently.
In Georgia, a taser is a lethal weapon. It's
well, it
considered
depends
a,
on when you ask them. If you asked them 2 weeks before the race,
true.
it was a lethal weapon. Afterwards, it was just a taser and it wasn't a lethal weapon.
Well, that's only because it was a black cop and a black guy and a white cop.
Right. Had it been the other way around.
When once color enters, then they change their mind. But every cop, I don't care where they are, if you grab their weapon off their bat belt, and that would be their utility belt,
Right.
and you turn and fire it at them, if you don't expect a lead bath, then you're just stupid.
Yeah.
Because when you fire a weapon at a cop, chances are they fire better than you.
Yeah, and they're going to keep, and they probably have partners too.
And they have partners, but when you risk their life or attempt to take their life, the lead bath you're going to receive, I'm sorry, but you deserve it.
Yeah, you signed up for that.
Yeah, exactly. You made that bed.
This is, I've said this a number of times, and particularly on this show, is that I would recommend everybody that listens, live or on the podcast, call your local police department and ride with a cop, whether it's during the day or at night. And most police departments are more than happy to have you sign a waiver,
ride along,
and ride along with a cop and find out what these guys really go through. It will blow your mind.
Oh, not a job I'd want for 5 times what they make. I wouldn't want that job.
No.
I wouldn't want to risk my, anything. I've got to be a police officer for a day, unless I could just write traffic tickets. And then in that case, I'd have some fun with that.
The media has portrayed that all cops are just sitting in Dunkin' Donuts all day long,
waiting to shoot some racially diverse person.
Which is, 10,000% not true. And again, ride along. Get a hold of your local police department. I happen to live in Johns Creek. I know they do it. I know Roswell does it, and I don't know about Atlanta, but I would assume, probably not Atlanta. It might be
they probably would do it with certain circumstances and requests made. Of course, right now I don't know if they would because of everything that's going on. Right now they're having trouble holding on to officers.
Yeah.
And now New York still has this pending. Possibly this weekend they're staging a possible walkout for a blue flu. And they said let New York celebrate its independence without police officers.
You know how we were talking last show, Roger, about movies?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, there's a movie out there called RoboCop 2, where who went on strike?
The police.
The police.
And the criminals. They became emboldened.
How is it that Hollywood has this much power? Because clearly Antifa and Burn, Loot, Murder, they're just following movie scripts.
Right. Well, why come up with an original idea when you don't have to?
But don't they know how these is going to end? Did they not watch the end of the movie?
Well, now movies always end the same way. You got to realize they got the Hollywood formula: good guy kills the bad guy, gets the girl, saves the world, whatever. Yeah. But in real life, it doesn't always work that way, especially when you have idiot politicians in charge.
Well, this is true.
I mean, these New York cops are just they don't know what to do at this point. I mean, they're trying to de-escalate situations, and if they can't, they're more than willing to walk away, I think.
Well, look, there are counties across the country that are inviting police officers from other, like, let's say New York and other places, to come down and join their police force.
Right, because they're going, we need good quality trained individuals that have the kind of experience these guys have, and we're going to treat them correctly.
Yep, they're going to be treated well. Well, let's face it, the NYPD are some of the best trained officers in the world.
Yep. All right, we're going to be back after a short break, and we're going to bring up crime in Atlanta.
It's going to be a very short break in that I want to remind everybody that we have great shows coming on every day. And this Thursday, we're going to have Diane Evans on. She was a captain in the Army and was a triage nurse. Actually, she was a post-operative nurse, and that's the one that the injured soldier wakes up and the first person he sees or she sees is that post-operative nurse. And Diane also told me that she went out on many dust-off missions, and that has to be the bravest of the brave. So with that being said, we'll be back with Locked and Loaded right after this.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Hello, everybody. We are back. This is Locked and Loaded. I'm Roger B., and you're listening to America's Web Radio. Now, before we left for the break, we were talking about New York cops running into issues, being overly cautious, being in situations that they didn't want to be in, so they just avoided them. And crime was exploding. Well, now I just read an article today from Bearing Arms, and this gentleman, apparently, he's from Georgia. The guy, Tom Knighton, wrote this article, and he's from Georgia, and that's where the city of Atlanta is. And he was looking at statistics here, and Atlanta is another city that is exploding with crime. Violent crime is exploding in Atlanta. Now, Atlanta is a southern city where you think things would be a little more conservative and possibly be more on track for supporting police officers, things like this. But after the last issue they had here, where they charged a police officer who shot a man who fired a weapon at him, they charged him with a murder charge. Police officers in Atlanta are getting fed up. They're getting disgusted. They're realizing that the politicians are not supporting them. And unfortunately, this one incident has driven a lot of police officers to retire. A lot of other ones are just not answering calls where there might be a situation where they have to pull a weapon or they have to detain somebody or they have to have an altercation. They're avoiding things like that. Why? Because they don't want to be brought up on murder charges for doing their job. It's crazy. Now, what is this? I'm going to read some stats real quick. From May 31st to June 20th, 75 people have been shot in Atlanta. Last year it was only 35 people. So it's up substantially. It'll be 100 by July, it looks like. 11 people killed during a 3-week period. Last year, 5. So it's double what it was. Now, these are not police shootings, though. These are civilian shootings. Just like Chicago. It looks like the criminals in Atlanta are trying to match the Chicago records. And why not? You know, if the cops aren't going to answer calls, if they're not going to detain anybody, if they're not going to confront criminals, why on earth should they do their jobs? And if the politicians are not going to support them, if the DA is going to press charges against a cop who ends up in a shooting, whether justified or not, why would a policeman want this job? Why would any of them want this job? I don't understand. Now, it's crazy because, I mean, from what I understand, the crime rate had gone up during the lockdown, which that I didn't understand because most people were home. Home invasions had to be way down. Most people were staying in. Most restaurants closed their doors. You could only get taken through a window. So I would think that a lot of that has scaled down. And now when people got out, they just came out with a vengeance. They were ready to burn, loot, murder, protest, kill, whatever they had to do. So these people are looking for opportunities, and the police are going to give it to them by not responding. So again, keep in mind, if you want to defend your family, if you want to defend your property, yourself, you have to be your own first responder. You can't count on the police, even less now than you used to be able to. So keep that in mind. If you haven't purchased a weapon, if you don't own one, it would be a good time to consider it, because the way politicians are going, as violence grows, they're going to push for more and more gun control, as they always do every time. Every time crime goes up, they push for more gun control, thinking they're going to stop criminals from committing crimes by taking guns away from law-abiding citizens. It doesn't work that way. It never has. It probably never will. So go out there. If you have the inclination to do this, if you want to, Now would be a good time. Actually, any time would be a good time. I really don't discriminate against times to buy a weapon, buy some ammo, buy some extra magazines, and most important, if you don't know, get some training. Even if you've had training years ago, things have changed. Ideals have changed. The way, the methods and capability of weapons is different, and the training that goes along with them is different as well.
We used to call it a familiarization.
Oh, yeah, familiarization is great, but putting yourself in a situation where you're under stress, being, having to place shots on good and bad guys, and making a split-second decision in the confines of a range and in a I guess a quote-unquote game, still puts you in a stress level that you're not normally used to, just standing there with your feet shoulder length apart, firing at a paper target. You're running down a hall, you're opening a door, you're going into a room area, and there's possible targets there, and you have to determine who are the bad guys, who are the good guys, and you have to make split-second decisions. This is the kind of training that will help you in a real-life situation, and I recommend it for everybody. Always do this. And besides, once you do it a time or two and you get over your initial nervousness, it's a lot of fun. It's great fun to get out there and get out from behind the range line. Get out in front there and get out and see different targets and put yourself in situations you're not used to. And there's most ranges probably have some sort of shooting event, whether a tactical shooting event like that or even just a fun one where you shoot bowling pins down off a 2x4 with a weapon of your choice, and you're timed. Now the timing is going to add a bit of stress that you're not used to when you're at the range by yourself. Now, some of these places, if you qualify or if they know you or if you pass a certain level, they will let you draw from a holster, move while you shoot, all kinds of things like this, which are things that you never get to do when you go to the range normally. These are the kind of things you have to learn to do if you want to become proficient. So by all means, seek training, get the training. Even start by watching some videos. Watch some videos on how these people do training. It'll be a wake-up call. These guys running, jumping, ducking, getting down on the ground, firing rifles at various ranges. I mean, I'm not saying everybody has to be a John Wick on their first time out, but get some training that puts you in a situation outside the normal range. So much fun.
And as things progress, depending on how they progress,
or regress.
Yeah, exactly. And I just said it on Victor's show. Plan. Put your mind into it. You can even meditate on it and think about, okay, this is what I will do if.
Right.
If somebody comes to my door that I don't know and keeps ringing the bell, or I don't have a camera on the door, which that's another good thing to have.
Some people don't, yeah.
But plan on how you're going to address it. You don't just run downstairs and say, "Oh, my doorbell has rung." We're talking.
Well, not in this day and age, yeah.
9 or 10 o'clock at night or later. Or we had an incident not too long ago in my neighborhood where somebody was ringing doorbells at 12:30 at night and in the morning, and and again,
be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared. That what are you going to do? You don't just swing open the door and say, "Hi, come on in."
Well, you might if you have a shotgun pointed at their head.
Well, and you knew them, it's your daughter coming home late or something. But
most people in this day and age, if they're coming to your house, they're going to call first. Everybody probably has a cell phone or can get one, and you call somebody if the doorbell rings now and you're not expecting anybody, unless you're getting a package or something. Most people are going to be shocked to hear a doorbell ring at any time of the day or night when they're not expecting somebody. Because it just doesn't happen anymore. People always call first or see if somebody's home or let them know they're coming. You just don't show up at people's houses today anymore. Used to be, ring the doorbell, it's like, oh, I wonder who it is.
Yeah.
now it's like, you should know.
I don't want to know. But, just everything is plan. Plan, think it through. What will I do if there's 6 or 7 people on my yard? What will I do if? What will I do?
And of course, you can always call the police and see if they show up, but be prepared for those, 3, 5, 10, 30 minutes it's going to take for them to get there. will you be able to survive in that amount of time between the time you call and the time they arrive if there are hostiles on your property or trying to get into your house?
You know, I had that. This was way before any of this. This was when I lived in Texas, and I heard someone breaking into my back door, and I called the police, and I kept hearing more and more aggression going on it was my back door into my kitchen, and there was a little utility room there that had my washer and dryer in it, and I heard them get the back door open, but then they hit the chain lock.
Ah, so they actually got the door unlocked.
Yeah, and the cops still hadn't showed up, but I did. And put a couple of rounds through the bottom of the door and got the guy in the leg, and he took off running down. We had alleys back then.
Ah, okay.
And he took off dripping blood down the alley, and the cop finally showed up. But it was a good. I called him twice, in fact.
Yeah, you had time. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, and time goes so slow when you're waiting on somebody to help to be your backup. Yeah, you're on your own for a while. And I think with the way people are treating police and the way police are treating their calls now, or the way they're responding to calls, you have to be better prepared than you ever have been before.
And if you call, tell them you're armed.
Oh, yes, by all means. And if the police arrive while you're there, lay the gun down, put your hands up so they can see them. They need to know you're a good guy. You know, put the weapon away, put it in a holster, put your hands up, say, I'm the homeowner, I'm the property owner. Let them know who you are. Identify yourself, because you don't want to get mixed up, because when they get there, they can't tell. There's no uniforms being worn. They don't know who lives there and who doesn't. They don't know what the perpetrator looks like or what he doesn't.
Nope.
So, you know, that's another thing. If you get in that situation, you have to use your weapon, or the police arrive, even if you didn't have to use your weapon, put your weapon somewhere where they will not be threatened by it. This is all good things to learn, and there are plenty of tactical videos out there that will teach you the basics. You know, look for a place that's secure, find a place where you either have an exit, or if you're walled in, be able to see all entrances and exits in and out of that space you're in, so make sure you can defend it. You don't want to have a door in front of you and a door behind you trying to defend a room, because you don't know where somebody's going to come from.
That's right. And tomorrow on Agent in Charge, Sandy Bostic is going to talk about if you're pulled over by the police, what do you do?
Hands on the steering wheel, fingers out.
And you do have rights, and you need to know your constitutional rights if you're pulled over, and
right.
The do's and the don'ts, just like Roger said. You know, what do you do? Well, you certainly don't make any quick moves.
No, and what I used to do is pull my wallet out of my pocket, put it on the dash, put my hands on the steering wheel, all fingers and thumbs in the air. So he walks up, he sees my hands. I point to the wallet and say, my ID is in there. You reach for it slowly, and then you show him what he wants to see. And more than likely, if it was just a traffic ticket, you may get a ticket. Big deal. You're not going to get shot in your car if you behave yourself.
And while you're putting your hands up, Roger, you say, and by the way, I'm a magician. Watch this.
Yeah.
Watch the flower come out of my hand.
Yeah, no sudden movements. Don't surprise a police officer. They don't want to be surprised. They just want everything to go smoothly.
About the time they get to your back bumper, they lose their sense of humor.
Oh, yeah, probably. Now, if they come up and see your hands on the steering wheel or hands on the side of the door, then they're going to feel a lot more relieved, because they're going to know that you are trying to not pose a threat in any way. And that just makes them feel more at ease. They're going to be more at ease with you. The whole procedure will go through much more easily. So keep that in mind. Now, I had a friend, he'd get his license out, have it between his fingers, have his hands on the edge of the door with his license sticking out. And it's like, yeah, that, not bad if you have that much time.
And if you happen to be carrying and you've got one in your belt buckle or in your belt, you might want to have your carry license out too.
Well, yeah. I mean, if they ask, it depends on what you're being pulled up for. If they ask you, you can always tell them. If they get you out of the car, keep your hands away from it. Let them remove it, or remove it with their permission. I mean, always move very slowly, because they don't want to get shot, and you don't want to get shot either. So be respectful.
It hurts.
What's that?
It hurts.
Yeah, it does. Nobody wants to get shot.
So, with that being said, I want to take this opportunity one more time. We have some of the greatest shows going obviously this one with Roger, with Mr. B, and then we had Victor's show that preceded the Locked and Loaded. But we have Doctor's Lounge coming up on Thursday morning. This is what they're talking about. This is what doctors are talking about, and what we've been talking about is basically the communist takeover of the United States, and it's everywhere. It's not just the marchers that are throwing bricks through windows or BLM or whatever. It's every place, and it's very true in Congress and in the medical system. So you really need to tune in to the Doctor's Lounge at 8 o'clock on Thursday mornings. And they, like I said, the doctors talk about what's happening in medicine and how socialism and socialized medicine just does not work. That's why Canadians come south to use our system. It's why it hadn't worked in England. It's why it hadn't worked any place. We don't want socialized medicine. One shoe doesn't fit all by any stretch. We also have a show on land surveying that's the only show like that in the country. And it's doing very, very well, and we're very proud of it. We've got other new shows coming on. We've got more veteran and more military shows coming on. And like I mentioned, Thursday morning at 10 o'clock, please tune in to my show, David's Pick, and it's brought to you by the Georgia Veterans Military Hall of Fame. And we appreciate Rick White, who works with us very closely. And tell your friends that are coming to Atlanta about all the places that they can go. The JC Healing Wall, which is the 50% replica of, and it toured all over the country, of the Vietnam Wall in D.C. We have the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame downtown, and then we have Peachtree Corners has its own memorial to Vietnam. So this is the place to come and get educated. By the way, Roger, I had mentioned earlier that as far as the terrorists concerned, what I would like to see done are the vandals, or whatever you want to call them.
Right. The quote-unquote protesters.
Yeah, protesters. And they are. Many of them are professional. They don't do
Agitators,
anything
yes.
else. But clean out buses, take all the seats out, and then arrest all these jerks, put them in the buses, and take them to the local recruiting office for the Marines and Army. Now, beyond that,
Most of them are going to get refused. They're not going to do it. And the Army doesn't want idiots like that.
Well, that's true, but some of them have a secondary plan. If you don't go with this, then you're getting something a lot worse.
Right. Give them an alternative,
The other thing is, a lot of these jerks that we've seen on camera and everything, they have no clue why they're tearing down this monument or taking this guy's statue down or whatever. And you know, I got to thinking about that. When I was in the Army, every now and then there would be just a little dribble of history thrown in. And what I'm thinking is that if you make these jerks join the Army or join the Marines, while they're in basic training, you give them some history. You got their attention. You might as well hold them to the fire and teach them something as well. They obviously didn't learn it in school, so learn it in the Army. Anyway, let's get back to Roger. He's got bigger and better things to talk about.
We got some stuff. Like I say, I don't know how many of you have been watching the news, but there was a couple in St. Louis, I don't know how you pronounce it, but they apparently were defending their property by pointing weapons at approximately 500 protesters walking by. And the protesters claimed they were just walking by, they weren't doing anything. However, what the news will not tell you, what the lamestream media will not point out, they broke through a gate, entered private property, were walking down a private road to go where they were going. So these people had every right to defend their private property. And now, of course, there's calls to bring them up on charges for pointing the weapons. No shots were fired. The guy was just standing there. I believe it had an AR-15, and his wife or partner, I think it was his wife, had a pistol, a handgun. And they were pointing it at the protesters, telling them, don't even think about coming in here and causing any damage. Don't break anything else. You've already trespassing. You're already on private property. You need to go. You need to leave. But, of course, these protesters don't care about private property rights because they want to destroy everybody who has anything that they don't, and they want to take everything from people and keep it for themselves. This is not just about rights. This is about money. These people want their college education paid for. They want police defunded. They want everything they need, they want paid for by the government. So, it's socialism. That's what they're pushing for. But anyway, this couple now, they're calling for an arrest of them because they pointed their weapons at these people who were on private property. Now, this to me is ridiculous. These people had broken the law. They were trespassing. They broke a gate to get into this area. And now the homeowners who defended themselves, there's calls to bring them up on charges. And I don't know. They entered a private community. Okay, so they were trespassing. Therefore, in my eyes, they should have a gun pointed at them and told them they need to leave. Nobody shot anybody. The threat was there. If you cause any more damage here, I am going to defend my property, defend my house, defend my family. And these people they were heading to the mayor's mansion or mayor's house to deliver a petition to get her to resign. They wanted her to resign and defund the police at the same time. Now, the mayor, of course, had released the names and addresses of all the residents who suggested defunding the police departments. So she was playing her end, too. I thought that was brilliant. You want the police defunded? We're going to let people know who you are. Because you're not going to call the police. Police won't come defend you because now you're on a list. I hope the police all get a copy of that list. So when they get a call, we go, oh, no, that guy wants us defunded. We're not going to defend him. You defund, we don't defend. It's that simple. You don't want the money there? Great. But it's crazy because this was not a political stunt by any means. In fact, what is it? Well, I'm trying to find their names real quick. Mark and Patricia McCloskey. They were protecting their property. And from what I've seen, the information they've been able to find on them, they claim to support the BLM movement. They are registered Democrats, and these people are trespassing on their property, wanting the mayor to resign, or the governor to resign. And it's crazy. I mean, here these people support their cause, and they want to invade their private property. They want to threaten them. And then when these people stand up to these morons, these idiots, then they want to get them in trouble. So be aware. If you have to use a weapon to defend yourself, there's a highly likely possibility that you will be involved in some sort of legal situation, especially in a more liberal city. And I hate to bring up politics, but the liberal cities tend to favor criminals' rights over individual and citizen rights. It's sad, but citizens should be given more leeway on their own property, with their own family, in their own homes. But a lot of states do not recognize this. Some states do not even have a castle doctrine where if someone comes into your house and you have a way out, you're supposed to flee rather than confront a criminal who breaks into your house. And of course, then you have to put yourself in that situation. How far do I let them go? Can I get out in time? Can I get my family out in time? Do I let them threaten me before I have to shoot back? Am I allowed to shoot back? A lot of these cities are not going to stand with you or stand behind you if you get into trouble with criminals. They stand for the criminals' rights and not for yours. Now, if 500 people came marching through a gate that was protecting my house onto my property, I think I would be forced to defend myself and my property from these idiots. But I'm looking forward to see how this is going to pan out with the McCloskeys here, because there's a video of them coming outside, pointing guns, yelling at these guys to get off their property and this and that. And it's true. It was private property. They were trespassing. They felt threatened because they had to break a gate to get in. So they were breaking and entering and trespassing. So you have to figure out, where's the line going to be drawn? Will the police come to your defense if you need to? I don't know. It's hard to say. And now we're going to go to Seattle, where the Chaz, the CHOP, the Autonomous Zone, the Occupied Protest, or whatever you want to call it, the morons that are taking over 6 square blocks of Seattle, The mayor is very upset that the CHOP's Summer of Love has landed at her house. Apparently, she's been very tolerant of the Capitol Hill organized protest or autonomous zone, and they've been squatting on land it doesn't own, violating constitutional rights of the 30,000 Americans who live on that land. They've taken over an area where approximately 30,000 people are residents and not allowed police to come in, not allowed first responders to get there easily. They are basically taking away the rights of the other people who live there, putting themselves in charge, making them the authorities there. And this is the same mayor who called for the Summer of Love, or called it a big love-in, a love fest, a Woodstock, if you will. Now, however, they said these people are coming to her house. They took its protest straight to the mayor's house. Now, of course, she's angry at the protest. Now she wants things stopped. She didn't care when other people's houses were being invaded, being taken over by these idiots. But now that her family are in a situation where they're being threatened, now all of a sudden it's serious. Nobody else was of any concern to her until she became the target of these quote-unquote protesters that took over 6 square blocks of city in the middle of the city she was supposed to be mayor of. These people elected her to defend them, to take care of them, to provide services that office is supposed to provide, and she failed on every level. Again, meaning you have to defend yourself. Be prepared to, because I think if this doesn't get settled swiftly, it's going to spread. These people are going to realize they're going to become emboldened. They're going to try other places. Like they keep saying, they're coming out to the suburbs. They're coming out to the country. They're going to move their protest outside of the major city hubs. And there's that possibility they may try that. But I have a feeling if they know what's good for them, they will not threaten people who are capable of taking care of themselves. Be one of those people. Find somebody who knows what they're doing, or go to a range, get some training, learn how to use your weapon. And even if you already know how to use a weapon, you can always learn more. There are people out there who will teach you more than you ever thought you could know. There are people who have been training for years, and they take a class and they learn something new every time if you go in with an open mind. But learn how to use the weapon. It's just a tool. It's like buying a treadmill or an elliptical. Parking in the living room is not going to have any results. Just hanging clothes on it is not going to do any good. You have to use it. Just like with a weapon, learn how to use it. And it doesn't matter what kind you want to get. You want to get a rifle, a shotgun, a pistol. They're all very good choices, but learn how to use them. I would probably recommend a first line of defense being a pistol because it's easiest to use. It's very specific in its target. It's not broad-based like a shotgun. And it's easy for anybody in the house to use if they're probably over the age of 14. Not that you want kids shooting intruders, but if it comes to that, you might need some backup. What if you do get wounded by an angry mob coming to your house of 5 or 6 people? Your kids need to know how to take up arms and defend you also. You don't want to leave them defenseless. And if they're over a certain age, I think they need to be taught. This is the kind of thing you should hand down to your kids. Hand them a legacy. Teach them how to defend themselves. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, you can't put guns in the hands of kids. You can if you teach them properly. And I'm not saying to give them the guns, but teach them how to use them if an emergency arises. All right, we're going to come to a quick break, and we'll be back right after this. You're listening to America's Web Radio. I am Roger B., and this is
Hello,
Locked
I'm
and
Dr.
Loaded.
Mike Karuchak. Have you ever wondered what doctors talk about amongst themselves? If you do, join us on the Doctor's Lounge and hear the doctors' conversations amongst themselves. Join me and my co-host, Dr. Hal Schertz, every Thursday morning, 8 to 9 a.m.
If your health insurance premium is more than your mortgage, Ellen Deal with Ideal Solutions is here to help. Whether you're a small business owner, individual family, or baby boomer, email MAGA45CAG@gmail.com and I'll respond with 3 easy questions to help you determine if you can get away from Obamacare. As a 20-year veteran of the insurance industry, I'm here to help with all your insurance needs. Email Ellen Deal at MAGA45CAG@gmail.com.
Whether cruising the strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
The disease of addiction is a life-altering challenge, not just for the person suffering its effects, but also for the family and friends who support and love the one caught in its grasp. What should be the course of treatment? Who is the best person to render treatment? And what is the best place to go for the care that is needed? We know that you want answers to these and many more questions. Call 770-696-9862 and speak to a representative of the Atlanta Healing Center. They can tailor a program specifically designed to address the needs of the person suffering with an addiction or give you guidance as to where that help may be found. Information is the key, and the trained staff at AHC is here to assist. If you wish, you can also get more information on the website located at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and every other gender out there. I'm Roger B. This is Locked and Loaded, and you're listening to America's Web Radio. And we're back. I've got a sad story to report. Remington is preparing to file for bankruptcy. Now, Remington has been around. Now, this is actually an outdoor group. They own several brands. One of them being Remington. I believe Smith & Wesson is under the same thing, America Outdoor Group or something like that. They filed for bankruptcy back in 2018. I don't know. They have several different, you'd have to look and see, they have several different brands under their name, though. But they're preparing, filing for bankruptcy again because they're trying to reorganize. It wasn't going well. And it seems hard to believe that a company that's been around as long as they have, and especially during the times that we've had where people are buying guns in record numbers, it seems hard to believe that a gun company would have trouble staying in business. But unfortunately, this came about because there were attempts to sue Remington after the Sandy Hook shooting. And even though they have federal protection, a judge allowed some of these suits to go through, and they spent millions of dollars defending themselves. And a Connecticut judge said the families can sue Remington for the way it marketed the Bushmaster. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's illegal to sue a gun manufacturer unless, of course, the gun is faulty in some way, misperforms, or doesn't perform properly, or has some sort of safety issue. Then you can sue a weapons manufacturer just like you can any manufacturer. But if they open this up, this is going to be difficult to swallow because everybody's going to be responsible for anything anybody can do with your products. Imagine suing car companies every time somebody gets in an accident or somebody hits a pedestrian. You're going to be able to sue the car company because they provided the quote-unquote weapon to this person who ran somebody over, who ran through a market, who decided to use it as an assault weapon. So it's sad that it's come to this, and this judge having no respect for federal law. Why a judge should even be in office if he doesn't know the federal law, to me, is ridiculous. So apparently the bidder who's most interested in purchasing this sporting group is the Navajo Nation. So the Indian Nation is preparing to make an offer to purchase the Remington Group. Now we'll see. They said the offers between $475 and $525 million. Now this Remington has been around since 1816. They currently make guns in New York and Alabama. Now I don't know why they're still in New York, other than the fact maybe it's a little nostalgic for them because that's where they started and they've been there the longest. But they say if the Navajo Nation gains control of Remington, they will stop producing AR-15 style rifles to the public and limit them only to law enforcement. That would limit their liability and maybe protect them a little better against possible lawsuits. Now that lawsuits are coming out against these gun companies, now even though nobody won a lawsuit against them, they still spent millions of dollars defending themselves. They never should have had to do that. Federal judge should not allow them to violate federal law in order to allow these suits to take place. They should have been thrown out one after another as soon as they came in. But it's going to be interesting to see how this is going to proceed because, the Navajo Nation expect interest in buying Remington to research and develop smart guns, which are equipped with with technology that prevents anyone but the gun's owner from using it. I say if they're going to have smart guns, let's start with police weapons. Let's start with Secret Service weapons. Let's start with Capitol Police. Let's let the police who defend our politicians, let them get smart guns first, see if they work. As for the rest of us, I don't think you should get any technology that's not been proven for many years. And having something like that can actually get you in more trouble than not having it, especially if you run into a situation where you're moving and shooting, you have to pick up somebody else's weapon to defend yourself, or you have family members who need to learn how to use a weapon.
Does a smart gun have multiple users?
It depends. Some of them do. Some of them have a little ring you have to wear. And if you're not wearing that ring, you can't fire it. Other ones read fingerprints, and you may be able to have multiple sets of fingerprints in there. I don't know. But you grip the gun wrong, it doesn't get a good reading, you can't use it. You're stuck. So we'll see. I mean, this is the whole smart gun idea. It sounds good in theory, but as of yet, the technology is just not there to perfect it. I mean, if you've got a phone with a fingerprint device, you know it doesn't work every time. Could you imagine pulling your weapon, expecting to use it, and the fingerprint system is not working properly, and you can't get your weapon to function? You put yourself at a huge risk of being shot, because ideally someone will have threatened you with bodily harm already, or deadly force. And if you can't respond in kind, you're going to be 6 feet under. And I've always told people I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. So we'll see if this goes through or not. I don't know. Remington's, they've been having trouble for a long time. Most of the claims that I've heard have been that management is just not doing what they need to do. Here they're saying that the Sandy Hook shooting in Newtown, Connecticut is the biggest reason for this, that they drain them of all their potential cash. So we'll see what happens with that. Hopefully Remington will still be around. They own a lot of good sporting arm companies, and I hope they don't drag them all down together and keep them out there. I mean, I believe Smith & Wesson is one of the ones that are in that group also, because I know their stock had stopped trading a few weeks ago. Okay, on to something better. Winchester bringing out a new .22. Now, most of you are going, great, another .22 rifle, just what the world needs. Well, think about it. Winchester needs to compete. I would say the number one .22 rifle in the world right now is the Ruger 10/22. It is probably by far the most successful, most reasonably priced, easily accessorizable and customizable .22 on the market. And Winchester decided they want a little piece of this action. So they figured out they're going to have to build something that's going to be exceptional. So now they're bringing out new ammo along with the gun. Now the gun is called the Wildcat 22, and they're bringing out Wildcat super speed ammo. These are copper-plated hollow points that can reach a muzzle velocity of 1,300 feet per second, which to me, the high velocity 22s reach around 1,200 now, so it's going to be a little boost. But they say the new rounds use a certain very clean burning powder, which in a .22 is very important, because if you shoot a lot of .22, you know dirty powder will clog up your action and make it stop functioning before almost anything else. And if this really is a cleaner burning powder and can allow you to shoot more with less cleaning, I'm all for it. Now, you got to realize the market Winchester's going after with this is saturated. There are so many .22s out there. But they wanted to bring something new. Oh, it's got a black polymer stock, no unnecessary weight. The whole weapon, I believe, weighs just around 4 pounds. So it's very lightweight, and it's modular. They're pieces that the action can be removed completely as a whole unit, which means I would imagine they're going to come out with trigger replacements and, smoother actions, things like that, to make it function better, to make it customizable, because that's where the money is. You want to be able to have a weapon people can build into their own, to customize it, to change it. If you have a 10/22, chances are you've done something to it. Whether it's a trigger, whether it's a stock, whether it's a scope and mount, whether it's extended magazine, you've done something to it.
All gas operated?
These are probably just blowback. Gas operated is kind of expensive, especially when this gun I think is listing at like $250 is MSRP, which means street price will probably be around $200. So they're going after that Ruger 10/22 market. The only thing I saw on it that for me was a little odd is that it's a very short weapon. The whole length is 36 1/4 inches with a pull of just 13 inches. So it looks like it's more fit for smaller first-time shooters, younger people, and you're going to have to fix it if you're going to want it. If you're a full-size person and you're going to want to shoot this gun. Hopefully.
What about the mag capacity?
Well, they're using a 10-round magazine, 10+1. through the Wildcats Rotary magazine. However, this is the neat part. Recognizing the popularity of the Ruger 10/22, they made their rifles compatible with 10/22 magazines. So there you go. I mean, because like I say, 10/22 is probably the most popular .22 semi-auto in the world. And to not allow it to use certain parts from the 10/22 would probably be a major problem. It's like in pistols and pistol caliber carbines. A lot of pistol caliber carbines use Glock magazines because they are some of the most popular magazines in the world. Law enforcement, 65% of law enforcement is using Glock. Glocks have been around in the same configuration since the 80s, and a Glock, I think a second generation Glock magazine will fit all the way up to a fifth generation, and the fifth generation will fit all the way back to a second generation. So they have the compatibility, and the 10/22 mag has been around, I'm going to guess, for probably a little over 50 years even. I think it first came out in 49 or 50, something like that, and the magazine came out at the same time. So a lot of the parts are going to be compatible. The 10/22 has been around for a long time with very little as far as improvements or major changes. So the customizability is going to be the thing. If the aftermarket will adopt this and start bringing out things, accessories for it or upgrades for it, it's really going to be, it could actually be a big deal for them. I hope it comes down to that, because Winchester could probably use a win now, because I mean it's tough being competitive out there, and Ruger has just been killing it. They've been coming out with gun after gun after gun that has just been taking the market by storm. They brought out their 9mm pistol caliber carbine last year. This year they brought out the Charger version, which has a short barrel and can be run with a pistol brace. So it makes it into like a semi-automatic submachine gun style weapon. Short barrel, easy to handle, great for home defense. Because rifles are generally, well, this is a pistol. The Charger is a pistol, but it can be equipped with a pistol brace, which makes it much more stable. Makes it comparable to a rifle in stability and being able to aim and fire rounds. So we'll see. But the 22 is going to be out soon. I don't know if it's out yet. I haven't seen one anywhere yet. But it's going to be interesting to see if people like it. I mean, with this, it's probably going to be hit or miss. Hopefully, the price point is going to drive people to maybe try it over a 10/22. And the Winchester name carries a lot of weight, so people may decide, it's a Winchester. It's probably built well. They do build good weapons, and they make their own ammo. But the fact that they're making it compatible with 10/22 mags tells me they're in this for the long haul. They want this to be a gun that they're going to keep similar for a long time, that this is going to be the one that they're going to want to be their 22 rifle for a while. So as soon as I get my hands on one, I can let you know what we got. But I'm looking at the specs on this thing, and it's looking good. Okay, well, if you see one, have a comment. You can let me know. If you have questions or comments for me, by all means, especially criticism. Tell me what I said wrong. Tell me what I did wrong. All right. This is America's Web Radio. I am Roger B., and you've been listening to Locked and Loaded.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
If your health